everybody, this is Kevin, and welcome back to another anime review. And today, I'm going to be concluding my JoJo's Bizarre Adventure review series with Part 6, Stone Ocean. A part that is a bit polarizing to some people, and that is because it being a new JoJo's part, of course, we changed protagonists yet again. This time to the first female protagonist, Jolene Kujo, the daughter of Jotaro Kujo, which, you know, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure has always been a shonen manga series. It's really the grandfather of all shonen manga series. I guess Fist of the North Star came before, but you get the idea. And it's always had a teenage male as the lead character, and here they go throwing us Jolene Kujo. And I gotta say, dude, she was a great character, man, and I really did enjoy Part 6. It takes a bit to get going, in my opinion, but once you're within, like, the first 5 or 6 episodes, it's good. And I do like the direction it goes, how the first 2/3 is a prison break, and just the interesting cast of characters, the strategy involved in avoiding the guards, who the main villain ends up being. I mean, it's a nice twist how it all connects to Dio, how really Jotaro is essentially the face of the JoJo's franchise in my eyes, at least with the anime, because of the 6 parts, I mean, he's centered in 3 of them, in Part 3, Part 4, and then Part 6, and he has a cameo in Part 5, so we can count that too, I guess. So, of the 6 anime parts, Jotaro is in 4 of them, to some degree, so he's really the face of it. Now, this is coming from someone who's never read the other parts, Part 7, 8, and I understand they're working on Part 9 right now, which I do think at some point there probably will be anime adaptations of all the others, but for now, this is where my review series ends with Part 6. So, I should mention that this is going to be a spoiler-filled discussion, so if you haven't seen it, definitely give it a watch. I think it's better than people give it credit for. You know, some people say it's woke, you know, because it's got a female lead character. I disagree. Jolene's a complete badass, and I gotta say, I'll just say it right away, she's sexy. I think she's sexy, absolutely. So anyway, let's get to it. I'll start with some of the voice actors. So we have Kira Buckland as Jolene Kujo, and Kira Buckland, fun fact about her, is she voiced Raimi in Part 4. So that's pretty cool. We have Tiana Camacho as Ernest Costello. I wonder if this is a reference to Elvis Costello, the singer. Is that right? I don't know, because there's all the stands are all named after bands and whatnot. We have Brittany Lauda as FF, or Foo Fighters. They call her FF, but you know it's Foo Fighters. Casey Mongillo as Emporio. Stephen Fu as Weather Report, Howard Wong as Anastasia, which in the dub he's Anastasia. Here it says Narcissa Anasui. I don't know, they called him Anastasia in the dub, so that's what I'm calling him. And then, of course, Matthew Mercer returning as Jotaro Kujo. Let's see, who else is worth mentioning? There's a few Monster of the Week type characters. So I don't know if it's really worth mentioning all of them. The main villain, of course, Father Pucci, voiced by Young Ye. We do have Patrick Seitz returning as Dio, of course, because Dio isn't alive, but there are a lot of flashbacks of him, and I guess it's kind of like a rewrite of Dio's relationship with Father Pucci, because, and it might be a conflict of character, because in Part 3, I mean, Dio had his associates, but he didn't really hold them in high regard. They're just his pawns. Whereas here, he gets along well with Father Pucci, and, you know, there's a relationship between the two of them in the fact that they're really close as to, you know, in Part 3, he's like, "You fools! Kill the Joestars, and that's that!" And here he's, like, talking, having wine with Father Pucci. Oh, man. Of course, we have David Vincent returning as the narrator. And, that's really it worth mentioning. You know, there's just the other characters. I guess I'll go over some of the stand names. Jolene, Stone Ocean, Ernest, Kiss, FFFF, Weather Report, Anastasia, Diver Drive, the Goo Goo Dolls, Jumpin' Jack Flash, Marilyn Manson, Limp Bizkit, Survivor. Survivor was a cool stand. Father Pucci uses White Snake, which they call Pale Snake. Really cool design with Pale Snake. Bohemian Rhapsody. So, you know, you get all the classic stand names, right? So, all that good stuff. So, it starts out with Jolene in jail, and I can understand why this rubs people the wrong way. No pun intended. But Jolene's in the jail cell masturbating, and it's like, Jesus Christ, are we really starting the show like this? So, I understand why it turns some people away, and there is some girl power stuff in there, but it's forgiven because I think Jolene's a badass, and, you know, I'll put it aside. But I will say, like, why do we just start with her blinding herself in the jail cell, and Ernest is picking on her like, hey, what are you doing, girl? Blah, blah, blah. And then they show, like, you know, they're going to the Green Dolphin prison, which takes place in Florida in the year 2011. So we're getting closer to the current timeline, although the ending begs to differ. But yeah, Ernest has like these scar marks on near her side boob, and she like has money smuggled there. It's like, what the hell's going on? But you need money to survive in Green Dolphin prison. So yeah, Jolene has been falsely accused of murdering someone, when really it was all a setup by Father Pucci all along. But you know, it starts out with you. There's a lot of mystery going on with the viewer watching and thinking that it's really her boyfriend who did it. And she's being represented in court, and all the odds are against her, and she gets locked up for murdering someone and just hit and run, essentially. But she didn't do it. If anyone did it, it's her boyfriend, but we learn later on it's all a setup, and that's that. So what happens is, as she's going to jail, she gets a memento from her father. And she's like, fuck that guy. You know, he's always treating me like shit. What does he care now? And in this little keepsake that she has is what I believe, I don't know for sure, but this is what I think. It's like a shard of the arrow, right? The arrow that gives everyone their stand abilities. Although Jolene should have it because she's a Joestar anyway. But she touches it and unlocks her stand, Stone Ocean, where she can use threads. She can shoot at threads. And of course go, Muda! Right? So she ends up facing off against her cellmate, Gwess, who's trying to scam all her money, and also has a stand where she, like, gets Jolene caught, gonna be reprimanded by the guards because they think she's breaking out of jail, and then gets visitation from Jotaro, who wants to break her out, of course. And we get the classic, oh, good grief. And Jolene even says it. There's quite a few times where she goes, good grief, or good freaking grief, and my favorite, good fucking grief. There's a lot of F-bombs in this one, which there weren't many. You know, they said shit and damn and bastard and stuff, but they say fuck quite a bit in part 6. And I love when Jolene has got her balls to the wall, she goes, good fucking grief, you know, just channeling her father. So Jotaro's gonna break her out, but this little boy in a baseball uniform shows up named Emporio, and he says, don't go, lady. And he's giving all these vague hints throughout. He has like this secret area where he can hide in the jail cell, and of course he has a stand as well. But what happens is this dude named John Galti is going to assassinate Jolene and also Jotaro. And there's all sorts of ruckus going on. Of course, Jotaro's just going to break him out with Star Platinum, the world, stop time, and then bust a hole out. And they got the submarine from the Speedwagon Foundation to make their escape. Of course, the Speedwagon Foundation rears its head again. And what happens is Pale Snake has the ability to put people's stands as well as their souls on CD discs. And that's exactly what he does. And that's when we get the reveal that Father Pucci was a disciple of Dio's and wants to get the world, Star Platinum, the world from Jotaro to figure out a certain book that Jotaro saw in part 3 that can unlock Dio's ultimate power. Made in Heaven is what it's called later on, so that Father Pucci can rule the world. And there's all these religious overtones. You know, the priest, Father Pucci, and then even the stand ability, Made in Heaven. So, early on, Jolene doesn't give a shit about her father because she feels neglected by him, when in all actuality, he just wanted to leave her be because of his crazy antics and getting involved with the wrong people. But because he's a lifeless shell, she has the Speedwagon Foundation take his body so that they can keep him alive. And then she vows, she can escape right then and there, but she vows to find the discs so that her father is back to normal, has his soul and his stand back. So that's like the first quarter of the part. And then, you know, she befriends Ernest and uses her charm to give them stand abilities, where she gets one, where she gets these stickers, and if you put it to something, you can rip the sticker off and it duplicates things. So cool strategy as always with the stand abilities, and gets a ragtag group of characters. Eventually they're doing like community service outside, which for such a secure prison, what are we doing out there? And there's like these, because they're in Florida, there's these alligators and all sorts of crazy shit going on. And then they find out that this being known as FF, which is just a stand of itself, is guarding all these other CDs that Father Pucci has. And she finds Jotaro's soul, but not Star Platinum. Or maybe it's Star Platinum. One or the other. She finds one of the CDs, but Father Pucci has the other. And then this other woman, I forget her name because she's kind of irrelevant. She's just another inmate with the green hair and the overalls. And FF takes over her body, so she becomes a cellmate and can sort of blend in by having the dead inmate's body. So there's all sorts of crazy shenanigans as they're going throughout with everyone befriending each other. Eventually, Jolene encounters Emporio again in his secret area where she befriends Weather Report, who doesn't really say much, as well as Anastasia. And Anastasia falls in love with Jolene, which later on is so great when Jotaro eventually returns. He's like, I am asking your blessing. Can I marry your daughter? Like, he's just so out front and open about it. Like, God bless him. Hey, like I said, I think Jolene's hot. I don't care what anyone says. I'd marry her too. She's a baddie. But anyway. So they get Weather Report to go help Jolene uncover the next CD, and there's all these crazy battles where they use like the atmosphere as their shield, and then Jolene walks past Father Pucci, and he's like, how the fuck is Jolene still alive? Because he thought he killed her, but of course she's still out there. And it's funny how they let the fucking priest, like, he's behind the scenes talking to all the security guards, like watching the cameras and stuff. How does a priest have that much leeway to wander around the prison? I mean, like, I understand having a priest there to offer religious services, and if someone dies, like, do a memorial, whatever. But what's he doing walking by this? He's looking at the cameras and stuff. Like, how did he obtain so much power? I thought that was pretty crazy. So eventually, they learn that along with all this stuff, Father Pucci wants one of Dio's bones, which is in the prison somewhere. And so Jolene is sentenced to like the solitary confinement area and uncovers the bone as well. Starts battling all these crazy bastards. There's this one guy who's voiced by John Eric Bentley, actually, who voices Barrett in the Final Fantasy VII Remake video game. And Jolene's like getting her ass kicked by him, and you know, Anastasia and FF show up to save the day, and eventually gets the other CD. And there's a scene when Weather Report uses his power to have these poisonous frogs rain down to disrupt Pale Snake, and this fucking seagull comes from the Speedwagon Foundation, of course, or maybe it's the carrier pigeon, and takes the CD back to make Jotaro recover. So then the bone turns into this green baby, which is like a reincarnation of Dio, I guess. And Pale Snake, of course, gets it. And eventually what happens is FF sacrifices herself to buy him some time. And then Jolene has a few instances where she gets hindered by this other stand user working for Father Pucci, where she can only remember 3 things, and she's like looking at her hand and has a bunch of things written down, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, but she can only remember 3 things. And then same thing with Emporio, the same thing's happening to him, but they eventually relay the message, and then they're able to make their prison break by, of course, holding this stand user hostage, who is one of the more high-ranking security members. And it's Jolene, Ernest, Weather Report, Anastasia, and Emporio, the little boy in the baseball uniform, make the great escape. And a few of them get separated. Although I think it's Jolene and Ernest and Emporio go first, and then Weather Report and Anastasia soon follow. And Anastasia's like, I love Jolene, I must go with her. So they follow suit. And there's some great episodes where the two of them get sidetracked and they're fighting like Pinocchio. And the big bad wolf from Little Red Riding Hood and like these crazy characters is like, how do you have the rights to use them? I guess they're public domain now, those characters. They must be. Because didn't Guillermo del Toro do a Pinocchio movie the same year Disney did a Pinocchio movie? Very interesting. But lots of crazy shit. Eventually, Weather Report gets his disc back where he didn't have his memory. Right? Each person has two discs, their Stan and like their soul. And he just had his Stan. And he gets his disc back. And then you get the reveal that Father Pucci and Weather Report were brothers. And lots of crazy shit. Like they go with heavy with the racism here. Because Father Pucci and Weather Report are both black. And, you know, Weather Report ends up seeing this white girl. And they like hang him. They have a lynching. It's like, Jesus Christ, man, this is getting pretty crazy. But he somehow survived, and now that he has his memory back, he wants revenge to kill Father Pucci, and he's gone completely out of control. There's these snails that are raining down that are like killing people, and it's a race to the location of where Father Pucci is, and then they all converge. Weather Report has this epic fight against Father Pucci, where I think he's gonna win, but nope. The father wins, and he continues his journey, and everything goes completely haywire. Time starts accelerating, and there's a great reference where, like, the news starts. It's like, commercial break already? And then, oh, the weekly manga didn't get to go out, except for Rohan Kashime's manga. His was on time, and I'm like, oh, Rohan's still drawing his manga at rapid pace. Oh, God bless Rohan. So eventually, for the final battle, everyone's getting their asses kicked. And then all of a sudden, you hear, like, the sound effect. Star Platinum! The world! You know, like the sound effect it makes. And fucking Jotaro comes back, better than ever, protecting his daughter, saving the day. And really great battle. However, Father Pucci fucking wins! With Made in Heaven, he like accelerates time even further. He's riding like this horse, like he's on this chariot. He's like, I will win, I've conquered all, I rule the world, I'm doing what Dio wanted. And Jotaro gets cut down, Anastasia gets cut down, they all fucking die. Except for Jolene and Emporio. And what happens is Jolene gives Emporio Weather Report's disc, which she got after Weather Report had died. And then they sort of reset the universe. Like, time accelerates so fast that there's like this crazy-ass time paradox. And the universe is reset. Emporio has memories of everything that happened. And he sees what looks like Jolene. But it's like the reincarnation of Jolene. And it's a happy ending, I suppose. A very interesting ending. And it's interesting how, really, the last Part 4, Part 5, and Part 6 all had sort of time paradoxes at the end. And this resets the universe because, if I'm not mistaken, Part 7 takes place in the 1800s again. So it's like a soft reboot for the JoJo's series. But overall, I really did enjoy Stone Ocean. I thought the characters were all pretty cool. I liked the main villain. I liked Jolene. And, yeah. So let's take a look at some of the screenshots. Okay. So yeah, I went over all the voice actors already. Some more of the characters, if you want to say. Oh yeah, this is one of the wardens of the of the prison. So there you go. So yeah, it starts out with the flashbacks and Jolene going to Green Dolphin Prison. All the crazy shit going on. Stone Ocean, the first appearance there. And this is where she says it. She goes, ah, good freaking grief. And just the way she says it is so badass. And I love Stone Ocean's design, the sunglasses and everything. So good. Muda! Gotta love JoJo's. This is the flashback. This is Jolene's mother. This is Jotaro's wife. Or maybe just the baby mama. We don't even know her name. They don't say her name. Which is kind of a shame. But Emporio warns her, don't go in there. And then we see Jotaro, good grief, Jolene, we gotta get the hell out of here. And that's John Golly, who's blind, by the way, and is trying to snipe him. Use his sniper rifle. So, what happens is Pale Snake gets Jotaro's stand and his soul. And you can see like his eye becomes lifeless. And, oh, going too fast here. That's more of a close-up. And Jolene taking him to the river where the submarine from the Speedwagon Foundation is out there. So she could have essentially gone too, but she has to... And I love this about her because early on, you're kind of like, how can I root for this chick? But then she gets the resolve to go and fight and risk it all to save her father. I love that about Jolene. Great character, in my opinion. And Ernest had a good character arc as well, where she got revenge from her sister. One of the inmates killed her sister, and she gets revenge killing him. I think he had the stand Limp Bizkit. Good old Limp Bizkit. So they're doing like work outside. Again, for the secure prison, we're really gonna take prisoners out there to do the work? I mean, what the hell? And in the shed, Pale Snake and Father Pucci had all the CDs stored. Right here, you can see. And I forget this. Eventually becomes FF, but I forget the inmate's name. This is FF. This is like an artificial stand created by Father Pucci with the discs, but then takes control over this dead woman's body and just becomes FF, so she can blend in with the other inmates. And I liked FF too. Very autistic character because she needs water to survive. That's why this being was near the river and guarding the CDs because it needed water. And so in the prison is like, I need water, I need this. And Jolene and Ernest are like, calm down, FF. You gotta act more normal in front of the other inmates. Otherwise, they'll be suspicious. So here's Father Pucci. Which, another great thing about Father Pucci that I loved is anytime he got really stressed out, he's like, oh, I must clear my mind and count the prime numbers. Which I forget. It's like 3, 9, 12. Like, counting the prime numbers. So badass, man. So yeah, they were... Oh yeah, this bitch showed up, and they had like a game of catch, and inmates are like, oh, what are you girls doing? And just showing the way of the prison, how all the bribes and paying off the officers. That's such a JoJo pose, man. Pale Snake, Father Pucci, look how he's holding the cross. so feminine-like. Oh my goodness. So here's the other characters with Emporia, Weather Report, and Anastasia. Which, when I first saw Anastasia, I'm like, is this Diablo's brother from another mother? But nope, different dude. So this is, I think in the English dub is Lone Ranger, and he has Jumpin' Jack Flash. And they use Weather Report's abilities to protect themselves from the atmosphere. Again, the strategic battles always appear in JoJo's. This is Jolene encountering Father Pucci. She doesn't know that this is like the big villain at this point. Just thinks it's a priest, and it's like, oh shit, I don't want to get caught. And then you get the flashbacks of Dio, which, again, I question the whole interaction of Dio because from what I saw early on, Dio had his underlings, but they're all subservient to him, and he didn't give a shit. He didn't want a relationship with any of them. But here it shows that him and Father Pucci were very close to one another. So what's up with that? It just seems like a rewrite, but it works out pretty well. Like, he's having his wine with Father Pucci. So yeah, I guess that's a pigeon, not a seagull. And from the Speedwagon Foundation, of course, getting the disc. Oh, is it a stand? It's called Savage Garden? Maybe this is a stand. Because Savage Garden is the name of a 90s fan, isn't it? So this is Ernest, her sister, or maybe it was her mother. Someone in her family died at the hands of this douchebag, so she kills him, gets revenge. He can summon zombies. He summons like a zombie alligator. This is the dude uses Survivor. And Jolene faces him. And again, dude, Jolene is fucking hot. I love this shot of her. She's got nice boobs. She's got the tummy showing. You know, she's hot. I like Jolene. So, fighting more of these dudes. Like, again, the crazy over-the-top nature of JoJo's. It did periodically cut to Jotaro healing, where he's almost in like a meditation state, and there's a photo of that's a young Jolene, it looks like. And I think, is that the photo of the Stardust Crusaders, the boys? Always remembers his boys. So yeah, FF buys time, but eventually has to sacrifice herself. And this is the baby. This is the baby that they use like Dio's bone to create this being. The green baby. So FF sacrificed herself so that Jolene and friends can live on. That was a sad moment. So yeah, this chick shows up. She has the ability to make Jolene forget things, and she has all these notes on her hand, but she can only remember 3 things. And races to Emporio, where he sees the same thing, and he keeps doing this. There's water in front of the computer, and he keeps touching the water and then the computer and shocking himself. So eventually Jolene uses her as hostage to escape, and that's Jolene, Ernest, and Emporio escaping prison. I think episode 24, if I remember correctly. And then Weather Report and Anastasia soon follow, where they encounter Pinocchio and Sleeping Beauty and all these people. Like, how can they use these characters? I guess they are public domain, but that's Pinocchio. It's crazy, man. So all sorts of crazy shit happens, and then they're on like an airplane. Oh, this shot almost looks like Cars and Wamu standing there, doesn't it? But that's Father Pucci and some other joke. So Weather Report gets his memory back and gets completely enraged with these snails raining down that are killing him. And you get the tragic backstory how him and Father Pucci were brothers. And I mean, Father Pucci looks more like he's darker than Weather Report, but you know, he's black essentially. And he was seeing this woman, and in the South they didn't take too kindly to that, and they hung him, which is fucking nuts. So they have a fight, and I almost thought Weather Report was going to win, but then I remembered, oh, there's quite a few more episodes to go, so of course Father Pucci has to stay on so that Jolene can defeat him. And yep, Weather Report dies, but he gives his stand to Jolene. So she has the Weather Report stand, which eventually helps him in the end. So they keep fighting. He gets like longer hair. And he accelerates time. They're like walking up the wall sideways. Yeah, I think they say they're at the Kennedy space station or something. So as she's fighting to survive, Jotaro comes in the nick of time, and I love the sound effect. It's like Star Platinum, the world, and he stops time to save his daughter, and then you have the epic fight, but he gets his stand evolved into Made in Heaven, which is just this fucking abomination. And time is accelerated so much, the sun keeps moving. It's just like, what the hell is going on? What do we do? There's nothing you can do. And they lose. They lose. Jotaro gets killed. And Jolene sacrifices herself, gives the CD to Emporio, where he essentially resets the universe. And it ends right there. There's like reincarnations, everyone. You see the reincarnation of Jolene is together with Anastasia and going down as our heroes live on. So I did like the ending. I guess some people maybe didn't like the ending. But, you know, if Araki wanted to reset JoJo's, good for him. At some point I'll check out part 7. One thing I wanted to mention too, like, early on, I kind of understand people dipping out because it almost seems like Jotaro is going to die early on, like when he loses his memory and his stand abilities. But again, that's why I like Jolene so much. She had the resolve to keep fighting for her father, to bring her father back to life, and that's what she did. And, you know, you got to write characters out of the way somehow, and JoJo's isn't afraid of killing people off, so Jotaro died a warrior's death. So yeah, I did enjoy it. I enjoyed it a lot more than I was expecting, because I kind of had low expectations. I remember everyone saying it's one of the least liked parts. And hearing in the first episode about Jolene masturbating in the jail cell, it's like, what the hell am I watching? But it gets good, and I really did enjoy it. Highly recommend it. I definitely enjoyed my watch of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. And I guess next week I'll do my ranking of all 6 parts, so stay tuned for that. Thank you guys so much for watching, and have a great day. Peace out.